Is this the beginning of the end for Nissan? Well, it certainly appears so. Nissan said numerous times they were going to fire 9,000 people. I said that was probably understated. And it was. They're now firing 20,000. That's more than 15% of their entire global workforce. Hello, my friends. Welcome to the channel. I'm Sam Evans. You're watching the Electric Viking, and we're seeing Nissan crumble in front of our eyes. Nissan plans to cut another 10,000 jobs worldwide, Japanese media reported on Monday, bringing total cuts, including previously announced layoffs, to 20,000. Just over 15% of its entire global workforce. Guys, this is a real point where we're seeing the Japanese automotive industry crumble. And I think it's unfortunate, but it had to happen. The struggling Japanese automaker warned last month it would book a record net loss of between $5.1 and $5.5 billion in the financial year that ended in March due to impairment charges. Yeah, there's a lot more going on than just impairment charges, though, that's for sure. Japan's third biggest automaker, whose mooted merger with Honda collapsed earlier this year, is set to announce its full year results on Tuesday. Nissan is looking to make its business leaner and more resilient after doing poorly in its top market, the United States, where its performance suffered heavily from, well, old cars, its aging lineup. And, well, let's be honest, they're just not competitive anymore in most segments. It's also struggling in China, where it is looking to stop a punishing sales slide with the launch of 10 new vehicles in the coming years. But thanks to cash problems, the fact that their debt has been downgraded to junk by all major ratings agencies, they have cancelled what they were going to build, a $1 billion battery factory in Japan, which the government was going to pay for nearly half of that factory. They've cancelled it. And then the following day, or within a few days' time, Nissan, which had more than 130,000 employees as of March last year, has, slashed 9,000 jobs and will reduce total global capacity by 20%. Now that 9,000 has just become 20,000. The company, one of the top 10 automakers last year by unit sales, is heavily indebted and engaged in an expensive business restructuring plan, which I personally believe is not going to work. And let's be honest, if other companies thought it was going to work, then Honda would be saying, yeah, we'll acquire you. Companies would be saying, obviously Nissan executives and even many people within Japan are saying, well, Tesla should buy Nissan. And Tesla's saying, no, thanks. No, thank you. Nissan's weak performance forced it to cut its profit outlook 4 times for the financial year that just ended. Like many peers, Nissan is finding it difficult to compete against homegrown electric vehicle brands in China, while its profits are now under massive threat from US tariffs. The possible merger with Japanese rival Honda had been seen as a potential lifeline, but talks crashed in February after Honda proposed making Nissan a subsidiary instead of integrating under a holding firm. And I did point that out at the time. I said, no, guys, this is all of the media, especially here in Australia, but I think also in the United States, they were saying it was a merger. They kept on saying merger. I'm like, no, guys, it's not. This is Nissan being a subsidiary. Honda will be the overlords. They'll be in charge. So obviously that's what actually happened. Nissan decided they didn't want to do that. Well, at least Nissan's CEO didn't want to do that. And Nissan's CEO has now been fired. Last month, Nissan issued a stark profit warning, saying it expects a loss of around $5 billion for the 2024-25 financial year. Its previous worst full-year loss was around $4 billion in 1920. So 1999 to 2000 year, that's when it lost a lot of money. But that was during a financial crisis that birthed its interesting rocky partnership with French automaker Renault. And Nissan, of course, has since faced some speed bumps, including the 2018 arrest of former CEO Carlos Ghosn, who has actually commented on what's going on right now, and who later fled to Japan concealed in an audio equipment box. The automaker, whose shares have tanked nearly 40% over the past year, appointed a new CEO in March. Ratings agencies have downgraded the firm to junk, with Moody's citing its weak profitability and aging model portfolio. But recently, ratings agency Fitch, have downgraded them to double junk. It's not exactly called that, but that's basically what it is. This month, Nissan shelved plans, only recently agreed to build a 1 billion battery plant in southern Japan, owing to tough business environment. And that battery plant was a lithium iron phosphate battery plant, which would have really, really helped Nissan. An additional headwind is the 25% tariff imposed by President Donald Trump on all imported vehicles into the United States, and even vehicles that are made in the United States using non-American parts. And Nissans were primarily manufactured using parts not from America. Of all Japan's major automakers, Nissan is likely to be the most severely impacted, Bloomberg intelligence analyst Tatsuo Yoshida told agency France Presse. Its clientele has historically been more price sensitive than that of its rivals, he said. So the company can't pass the costs on consumers to the same extent as Toyota or Honda without suffering a significant loss in sales units. While Nissan's lackluster electric car roster has failed to win over the Chinese market in any way whatsoever, the company recently announced investments to the tune of 10 billion yen, which is about just under $2 billion, in the world's second largest economy and soon to be the first largest. China's highly competitive EV market is the largest in the world. And obviously, it's led by BYD. And to be honest, people in China are not thinking when they go and buy an electric car, which they are now, 51%, 52% in fact, in the month of April. When they go and buy an electric car, they're not thinking to themselves, hey, well, Nissan, let's go buy an electric Nissan. No one thinks that, right? They are really considered an internal combustion company. One potential solution for Nissan could be Taiwanese electronics behemoth Hon Hai, better known as Foxconn. They assemble iPhones and they want to expand into cars. Foxconn said in February it was open to buying Renault's stake in Nissan, and this month it agreed in principle to develop and supply an EV model to Mitsubishi Motors, an alliance partner of Renault and Nissan. External help, Yoshida said, is very much needed for Nissan, which can no longer differentiate itself from its rivals by making internal efforts to save costs alone. Firing 20,000 people, is it enough? Closing down factories all around the world, is it enough? Well, I'd say no. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments.